Hey guys, and welcome to the SAP Super Summit. We're now on to speaker number 3, and this is a very, very special presentation. The speaker is Anders Trolle Schultz. Anders' presentation is on Is Cloud for Real? Now, for those of you who know Anders, he's an international speaker, an international innovator when it comes to cloud. He's globally respected for his expertise on SAP Cloud especially. He leads a strategy for cloud across the industry. He's recognized as a true bastion and innovator in this area. So, Anders, are you online?
I am online, thank you. Can you hear me?
Fabulous. We can hear you loud and clear.
That's good.
Fabulous.
And thanks a lot for the kind words. I'm getting more or less embarrassed here.
Hey, you know, we're very proud to have you on board, as you know. So thank you. The pleasure's all ours, and also the hundreds online. So what we're going to do is pass you the control, Anders.
Yeah.
So we should see your screen imminently.
See it?
There we go. There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
So if you can make the put it into presentation mode.
I am doing that.
Wonderful.
Here we go.
That looks well. I've seen your presentation already, and I know what you're going to be talking about. So we're going to turn off our audio now, so we're going to leave you to it and just set expectations again for the audience. As before, we're going to let the speaker speak for 45-50 minutes around the topic, and any questions, do feel free to add them to the chat. If we can answer them throughout the presentation, we will. At the end, we'll be putting questions out to the audience, and those which are relevant and the most consistent, we'll be putting back to Anders. So without further ado, we're going to pass you on to Anders.
Thank you very much. Just to let people know, all my contact details will be at the end of the presentation, and I think that you will be sending out this as PDFs afterwards. And of course, you're free to reach out on LinkedIn, which some of you already have done previous to this presentation. Just to give you an idea of who SaaS-it Consult is, I am just going to do a 1 to 2 minute presentation of our company before I go into the presentation, just to set the expectations. The company was established in 2008 based upon that I used to be a sales director for a very big Microsoft partner in the Nordics, working a lot with hosting and service providers, and saw a need to do business development in this space. Ever since that, we've become an international SaaS and cloud business consortium working with CXO Advisor in South Africa, Consult in Slovenia, and M-Mind in Sweden. And our customers have been, among others, Microsoft, HP, Navisite, the Danish government, Rackspace, Tieto, and SAP, and a lot of other smaller companies throughout Europe, the States, and of course now also Africa. We've been delivering our services through workshops, seminars, webinars, and ongoing consulting. And in Western Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, and South Africa, we've delivered more than 150 cloud business workshops, helping especially the IT partners participating in the IT supply chain, actually figuring out where is their business going to be in the future. We've done a lot of SaaS and cloud sales training programs for IT companies. We work quite a lot with distributors, because right now, as we see, the distributors are probably the part in the IT supply chain that are most worried about where's their business going to come from in the future. And then we work through the CXO partnership a lot with end customers looking at their cloud strategies and also deployment. And we're also on the advisory board for HostingCon, which is a very big hosting event in the US. I'm the co-founder of EuroCloud, and also I do a lot of speaking at Microsoft World Partner Conference, Microsoft Hosting Days, various HostingCon events, and regional European events. I'm here not particularly as an SAP expert, but more to give you an idea of what's going on within the IT world, and especially within the cloud and cloud computing as such, because the world will not care about technology in the future. And of course, a lot of the vendors, including SAP, don't like that sentence, but we have to show in the future, as a supplier towards our customers, the real value of IT and not function and features. And by the end of this session, I hope that you will be able to see that is actually true. But before starting off, we need to get, we have to be aware that Helen Hayes, a very old US actress, she said it quite clearly. If you rest, you rust. So no matter whether you're an end customer or a SAP partner or IT manager, whatever you are, if you do not include cloud computing and software as a service in your future plan, you will rust. As an IT partner, you will not be able to make money. And as an end customer using IT, the agility disappears. So if you rest, you rust. But let's look at the cloud SaaS landscape as a general point of view. But before we do that, we have to get some terms clear, because I usually, when I do this speaking with an audience in front of me, I ask people, what is your interpretation of SaaS? And I get maybe 100 different interpretations if there are 100 people in the room. So for the next 45, 50 minutes, we have to stick to these two, to this interpretation, that software as a service is IT services delivered on-premise or off-premise, independent of any traditional perpetual licensing models, with a focus on the services delivered as a subscription-based expense and not the licenses or the technology required to deliver the services. And I usually use, and I do apologize, I know this is an SAP Super Summit, but I usually use the Salesforce as an example. And I ask the audience, does anybody know what kind of technology is behind Salesforce? And everybody goes quiet, just like now. And it's actually a very old Oracle database. And the problem is that, the good thing is that nobody really cares, because they're just subscribing to a CRM system in the cloud, which is the most important thing. We don't care about technology anymore. We don't care about whatever hardware or licenses or technology is behind it. We are subscribing to a service that is actually meeting our needs or killing our pains. But cloud computing, that's a totally different thing. And a lot of people try to do saying that SaaS and cloud is two words of the same thing, and it's not. Because cloud computing is actually just a production method where the services are presented on demand, to some extent self-provisioned, it's scalable, and it's billed per logical unit used. And logical unit used could be either per user, per hour, per second, per storage unit, or whatever. So one thing we have to be clear of is that SaaS is not cloud computing. Cloud computing is actually a production method, and SaaS, software as a service, is a way in which you subscribe to some kind of IT services where you are not particularly interested in what kind of technology is behind the service. Unless you are a geek or a nerd. Then you want to dig into what's going on in the factory. And that's why I say there's a hype around the cloud. Because most of our IT is still delivered on a local infrastructure with some kind of perpetual licensing model, and that's the traditional IT delivery. Then some 20 years ago, somebody came up with this first hype. And that's when we actually moved everything, or some of our stuff, into a hosted platform. We still owned all the licenses as a customer, and somebody came up with the term ASP. ASP really didn't get off the ground because we did not have the networks to actually support it. So it was a hype that never really got to anything else but the hype. And then, of course, everybody is saying that everything is moving to SaaS and cloud computing, is all the same. But if we then kind of think of the terms that I described before, the difference between SaaS and cloud, we have a totally different picture. Because from a customer's view, and this is what we call the SaaS-it evolution model, we can get our stuff on a multi-tenant platform on a subscription base in the cloud, off-premise. But what if I, as a SAP customer, said, I love the idea of me not having to host everything myself. But this SAP solution I have does not really today run on a multi-tenant platform, or I have done so much customization so I don't fit into this multi-tenant, everybody uses the same thought. Why can't I just get it hosted by somebody and then actually subscribe to the services and pay on a monthly basis, either based on how much data do I actually use, how many users do I have, can I get it so that I have heavy users, medium users, and light users? I might have users that only do lookups in the system. Why can't I get that? But on the other hand, and that's what we call cloud services. That is cloud services, and it's built somehow, and the customer is not that much involved in the technology and how it works. But then, of course, what about on-prem? What if I, as a customer, said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of having to pay everything up front. I don't want to go into licensing contracts for 5 years. But my data is so much of a value to me, so I don't really trust it to be out in the cloud or in a data center with other platforms. So can you do the same stuff, but on-site in my data center instead? Why not? This is what the customers are asking for. They're asking for subscription-based expenses. They want predictability. They want to move everything from CapEx to OpEx. Let's give it to them. But of course, there are some things that do not run as a service, or you have to have it on your local PC. And this is what Adobe has realized. So for the last 12 months, they have developed services where you can actually get their stuff streamed down to your PC. You can run your Photoshop for a month, and as long as you pay for the subscription, that Photoshop installed on your machine still keeps running. But the day that you're not paying for your subscription, it actually stops running on your PC. What we're giving the customer is the idea of software as a service or subscription-based expense or predictability, but we're not changing how they're actually using their IT. So SaaS and cloud is much more about than just moving everything into the cloud. And this is what, when we're doing it on-prem, we call it services on-prem. And from a customer perspective, all of this is SaaS. So to end customers listening in on this one, you have to actually challenge your supplier saying, guys, I know that cloud is wonderful. I know that that's where the world might be moving over the next 20 years. But right now, I want some OpEx discussions. How and what can you do for me to actually get my expenses to IT to be much more predictable? And of course, then a lot of people are talking about hardware as a service, and we're seeing that trend right now that a lot of devices are turned into rental models, just like we know from the mobile business. The big hype right now and the big uptake is, of course, infrastructure as a service, where you can go in and actually rent space on platforms within hosting providers and move some of your stuff to actually get this flexibility in your workloads. And then there's PaaS, platform as a service, where companies like Microsoft is pushing the Azure, where developers can get all the tools they need, but they do not have to worry about databases, etc., and how that works, but they can go straight to programming the applications. And I see that is going to be a huge uptake in how we do mobile apps development within the platform as a service space. And again, it's all about who the customer is, and much more important, how and what the customer is asking for. So, a lot of people have also been asking, what's the difference between outsourcing and versus X as a service, or SaaS as a service, or platform as a service? It's all about vendor versus customer perception. And I usually use this, start the scene by saying that marketing is actually driving the misunderstanding, because you have probably seen a lot of the vendors, and I'm glad to see that SAP sticks to core competence and not is driving the whole business towards the cloud compared to a lot of the other traditional vendors. Because we are seeing a lot of messaging saying about you will not survive without the cloud. We give you cloud power. You need a cloud strategy to survive. Cloud will be the only choice for the future, etc., etc. And it's not true. Cloud is just, and I'm still underlying that, cloud is just a production method that might give you as a customer more agility. But you have to be very, very careful when you actually choose to move to the cloud. Is it right for you? Does it actually give everything that you're asking for? Does it actually give cost savings? Because some cloud strategies might not give you cost savings when you just look at the IT cost, but it might give you a much better bottom line because the agility and the way that you can actually change the way they use IT is better provided through the cloud. But one has to think twice before just moving towards the cloud just because the vendors are saying it. So why is as a service such a great idea? Well, a lot of people have been trying to put this together in some white papers and then promoting themselves, especially the vendors. But as I said, from an end customer point of view, when you're doing your IT, it's all about something called hardware, it's all about middleware, it's all about application, and then it's all about business processes. And the scope of activities is normally managed internally by you as a customer or by the businesses. And that means that most of your budget, all your effort, actually goes into maintenance. You spend a lot of money on maintenance. And that leaves very little room for innovation. And innovation is key to success. It's not about owning the IT or actually being in control of the IT, etc. It's all about how can you turn IT into tools that actually enables you to be much more innovative. And if we look at as a service, well, if we take just some of the stuff that we're doing, so let's take the hardware out of the equation and infrastructure as a service out of the equation, saying I'm going to buy that from the outside. I'm either going to buy deliver on within a hoster, or I'm going to let somebody build those platforms within my own environment. But I'm not going to worry about how they build it, how they make it run. I'm just going to pay it as a service. And then some of the stuff I don't have to manage internally anymore. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to put it into my strategy or anything like that. I'm just buying the stuff as a service. And that actually leaves a bit more room for innovation. I have to spend less on the budget on maintenance, but of course I have to do some kind of vendor management, which is changing from the traditional buying the stuff. But the most important thing is that I might not have to pay as much in the future on a recurrent picture. It will probably be more expensive if I look 5 years out in time, but with as a service, I can change vendors and I can scale up and down much more easier as if I was paying for everything up front and investing myself. And the more we move into as a service, the better the picture looks. So as a company, if I really move to the whole stack of as a service, that will give me the ability to spend much more money on innovation. And just if you as an IT manager or IT director or a CTO, I usually describe it also as the iceberg effect. In the old days, 95% of the work I did as a CTO wasn't visible to the rest of the organization because it was all about maintenance. But in the future, I'm actually able to go out and discuss what is the value of IT, how can I help you, because I do not have to spend all the time in the cellar at the bottom of the building, of the office building, but I can go out and be much more visible and discuss how does IT support because somebody else is taking care of all the maintenance. I might even become a success because in the old days, whenever I was speaking as an IT or a manager or a CTO to my users, my customers within the company, it was all about complaining about how the IT wasn't working. And one of the bigger problems that we have right now, and this is especially coming from the SMB space, because SMB customers, they don't speak IT. They talk about their own business, and they don't understand what the IT partners are talking about. So if I am an IT partner, my language is like this. I talk about, as a customer, I would talk about accounting and administration. I would talk about my customers. I would talk about how I'm communicating with my customers. I would be talking about content, my invoices or my letters or whatever it might be, product sheets. I would talk saying, I need some web presence, I need to go out there, I need to engage in the social media and all that stuff. And of course, I've got either a production or products that I'm selling or services that I'm delivering. That's the daily life of a customer overall. But the problem is that when the IT partner comes in and wants to discuss this, he's talking about ERP, he's talking about CRM, he's talking about mail, VoIP, and communicator, he's talking about SharePoint, or he's talking about websites, or he's talking about special applications. And there's a total disconnect. The IT world has to understand that in the future, it's not about how their products are called, it's not how they work, it's actually how can I, as an IT partner, understand what are the needs and pains of my customers and how do I actually fulfill those needs or kill the pains that he have. So when I do my consulting towards the IT supply chain, I spend a lot of time trying to teach them that you have to understand what your customer's business is. It's not what you're trying to sell, which is the most important thing anymore. It's much more about how is their business being run and how can you help them run it better or more agile. So customers, so let's look at the customer's buying behavior in the future. And I know that there's a diverse audience here, but it's all about the control of the stack. So if we take the SaaS-it evolution model again, and we look at cloud services or SaaS on-premise, as I explained, which is all SaaS, we can get platform as a service from vendors, or we can actually build our own platform as a service. That's PaaS. And of course, that same thing with infrastructure as a service and hardware as a service. And I just need to put a bit of remark on hardware as a service. We really see a focus right now on a lot of the hardware vendors together with the distributors are looking at how can they actually get the hardware itself into the equation of software as a service so that you now in the future can subscribe, for instance, getting an iPad on a rental basis together with some kind of cloud services so that you as an IT manager or CTO can say that employee A will cost me 275 euros a month and employee B, which is not as sophisticated, he will only cost 150 euros a month, but that's including everything, including the hardware, including services, etc. What that also means is that your IT partner will take control of the hardware, will put some managed services on the hardware so that if that particular device is on its way to fail, you will actually have that IT partner go up and swap the hardware before it fails. Because the cost of having an employee going without his IT device is much more expensive per hour than the cost, the additional cost of renting the whole thing. And I would love to see end customers do some calculations on how much time are spent on maintenance, not only on the systems, but also on employees not being able to use the IT for either 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or 60 minutes. So think about it. As a service, including the hardware, might be the way to go in the future. But control of the stack. Well, the more control, and this is where the enterprises, the bigger companies, and the development companies come in. They don't like the thought of software as a service because they believe, and to some extent they're right, that they need to look at infrastructure as a service to start with. They don't want to care about virtualization, OSs being run, and all that stuff. So if they can get the infrastructure as a service in place, they're happy. Some of them might want to move into the platform as a service because they have a lot of development people within the organization that do not really care about how to actually deploy development tools on the infrastructure as a service platform, and then they'll move into the platform as a service thought. Software as a service is much more where you don't have as much control of what's happening, and that's where the SMB market is moving. So right now, it's actually the SMB market that is pushing the software as a service thought, whereas it's the enterprise market which is moving into the infrastructure as a service. And SAP is somewhere in between. But I do like it that SAP is not like other vendors saying it's all about being all in. Let's take it step by step and see what's best for our customers. And in the US, we've seen a lot of SAP customers moving some of their stuff into some kind of infrastructure as a service platform to get the ability to scale up and scale down, but they still need control of all the things that they've been changing on their SAP system, and it doesn't fit into the software as a service. Everybody gets the same thought. But when you're looking at your IT, you have to decide what kind of roles are you actually able to play. Because if you take the full picture in the future, we're going to move to the hybrid model where an end customer is going to have some kind of in the cloud services. The customer will have traditional IT deliveries, and the customer will also have some on-prem services. You as a customer might want to have some infrastructure as a service platforms within your own data center supplied by a data center which is very good at this, but you do not want your data outside of your own premises. And the biggest challenge will be the system integration between them. And I know that a lot of people are saying that security is an issue and that how do we do it? It's not. The biggest issue for the future is how are we going to integrate all of this stuff to be able to optimize in any way, whether we want in the cloud services, whether we want some on-premise services, or we just have to stick with the legacy stuff that we have. So that's the picture of the end customers. But somebody has to actually define what kind of service deliveries and customer offerings will there be in the cloud or in the IT itself, probably better put. Should it be actually produced on a multi-tenant platform? Is it more suitable for a single-tenant platform? Should it actually be delivered on-prem with the customer? Then, as an IT supplier, I have to figure out how do I actually manage it. I have to put together some kind of facility management system. Should I outsource it? What we're seeing right now is a lot of people are looking at the more simple stuff like email and VoIP and outsourcing this stuff. And we've seen the biggest two players in this game, of course, is Microsoft and Google. So a lot of customers looking, should I outsource my email system to Office 365 or Gmail? And you as a customer, you have to figure out, am I really better at hosting my own Exchange servers, or should I look to going through Google or Microsoft instead? Because there I can do software as a service, subscription based, somebody else is taking care of it, and then spend the money that I used to use on maintaining my email service on being much more innovative in the things that really matter to my business. Am I very good at business process consulting? Do I really do all these workflow things that good? As an IT partner, am I very good at that, or should I reach out to another IT partner, or even a consulting company that does this better? Should I, as a customer, reach out to somebody who knows a lot about my industry to have them show me how and what is best practices within the business processes when running a business like mine? And what about help desk and support? If I start outsourcing this stuff, if I outsource my email and email archiving systems to Microsoft, for instance, what about help desk and support? Should I have my own people, or should I ask Microsoft and an IT partner to do it, or should I build up a new type of help desk and support in my own environment? And of course, what about billing and provisioning? Because one of the things that will enable a thing which is good about all of this is that when we start to do software as a service or cloud services where you have some kind of subscription per month, per user, per storage unit, or whatever, it actually enables you as an enterprise to start splitting the cost out to all your entities. One of the challenges is about how can I actually build shared services throughout my organization. And when you move into this space, you get a much clearer picture on what is the cost of running IT and how can I tell company A in South Africa or company or entity D in the US, this is what the IT is really costing us to run on your behalf. And then, of course, what about connectivity services? Can I do all this stuff myself? Do I have to reach out to somebody to help me? All about the system integration. And then, of course, from an IT partner point of view, it's all about sales and marketing. And in the old world, it was all about pushing technology when you as an IT partner went to your customers. But in the future, it's all about understanding customer needs and pains. And I can tell you, a lot of IT partners out there in Europe, in the US, in Africa, all over the world, they've got a huge problem in this transition of, I have a server I want to sell to you, instead of saying to the customer, how's your business running? How are you running your business? Where do you see your own problems right now? That's a huge step for a lot of IT companies. And a kind of funny story from my own home is that a year ago I moved to a different place in Denmark and I had to get a new phone number. And the biggest phone company, TDC in Denmark, was so kind to give me a number that resembles my mobile number. The problem was that that used to belong to a big retail chain in Denmark. And I get a lot of calls which are not for me. Half of those calls are actually from salespeople within the IT industry. And I must admit, I'm amazed that the IT industry is still trying to push their stuff by cold calling without really knowing who they're calling. And I have a lot of fun by teasing them. But that's a different story. But just by saying that, if you are a customer listening to this, challenge your supplier. Don't just take what they're trying to offer you, because they're thinking only of themselves and not what your needs and pains are. And if you're an IT partner listening, IT supplier, be cautious. You have to change the way that you actually approach your customers in the future. You're going to get much more out of listening to them than just trying to sell what you have in the bag. And as a customer or a hosting provider, whoever you might want to be, you have to start looking at how do you actually manage your vendors, because the vendors you're going to have in the future are going to look much different. It's all about what technology are they using to produce it, who's going to enable the service, who's going to build the services, and how are you actually going to procure it? What kind of procurement models are you going to put in place? Are you going to have procurement actually take over buying all of this stuff? There's a lot of things to take into consideration. And I urge you to try to build a model similar to this when you look at your IT strategy in the future. And do not try to do everything yourself. I know a lot of enterprise customers are wanting to do everything themselves. but there's a lot of things, a lot of the boring stuff, email archiving, storage and stuff like that, you can get much cheaper, easier, and without having any maintenance, and then spend your money and time on what really matters when you look at your IT. So in the future, we're going to have a hybrid model. We're going to get custom on-prem stuff, we're going to have partner hosted and public clouds, and we're going to have the real public clouds. That's the picture of the future, the hybrid model. And I know that it was addressed also in the previous presentation. And the cloud service business, well, it's all about building a service, it's all about providing a service, and that's what we usually call a service provider. But somebody has to enable the service as well and manage it. And this is what either partners or customers are doing themselves. And this is what I call a managed service enabler. And if you're doing all of this stuff, you're a managed service provider. What's happening right now, because cloud services and the offers out there is increasing day by day, is that we're going to see aggregators coming into play. So we're going to see, especially in the SMB space, we're seeing companies that are taking a new role where they're aggregating various services into solutions for verticals, special industry solutions. And we're also seeing, as I said before, distributors are desperate to find their role. So they're looking to see how can they play some kind of role in all of this. Whether they're going to succeed or not depends on a lot of things, but they're going to be suffering in the future, the distributors. And we're also seeing distributors like Tech Data and Ingram, they're building data centers or working together with big hosting providers just to make sure they get a cut in the cake. But the most important thing for everybody here, not as you as an end customer, but everybody in the IT industry, is that they really have to change the way they do sales and marketing. It's not about pushing technology anymore. It's all about meeting the demands from the customers. And that's why we're moving towards the hybrid distribution model. How big a role the distributor is going to play, still to be seen. But what we have to do, all of us, is that we have to adopt to the retail thinking. We have to learn from Coca-Cola. And what is it that Coca-Cola does? Well, they have factories, they use wholesalers, they have multiple outlets. So we can get Coca-Cola whenever we need it, whenever we have the pain. So if the pain is not urgent, we go to the supermarket. Can you still hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm just got a note that there might have been some problem with the connection, but what I was saying is that there's going to be multiple outlets. That's what Coca-Cola does. They are very good at sales and marketing support. And they do outsource their production. So in Denmark, for instance, Coca-Cola has their product produced by Carlsberg, and nobody really knows how it's made. And in the IT in the future of cloud services, we're going to have data centers. We're going to have distributors and aggregators. We're going to have offline and online channels where people can sell this stuff. There's going to be a lot of sales and marketing support. And you as a customer, you might outsource your production of email. You might have IT partners that are saying, well, I'm not very good at hosting ERP. I'm very good at building these ERP solutions. So I'm going to work together with a data center and have them produce it. And in the future, as technology becomes less and less important for customers, I hope that in the future nobody will really care how their IT service is actually built or made. And to be honest, as I said before in the beginning, we don't really know how Salesforce is building their CRM systems. We don't know how Google is actually building all of their services. but we are happily using their services. So a recap. What are customers looking for? Well, customers right now, as we hear it, is they are all about role-based IT. So as a customer, you are looking, enterprises, SMBs, how can I divide my various employees into some kind of role and get a clear cost on, if I employ 100 more people in production, they will cost me 120 euros a month in IT, including everything. And I can actually build that on roles in my organization. We want a dashboard with self-provisioning. So, for instance, if HR has employed a new employee, employee B, the manager of employee B can actually go into a dashboard and say, this guy needs this, this, and this, and his device is set up immediately for that use. It's all about system integration. It's all about OpEx instead of CapEx. It's best of breed and a hybrid model. And this is probably the most important thing, is that IT will no longer be king of the mountain. How many times have we not seen year-end reports for organizations saying, due to an implementation of a new ERP system or CRM system or mail system or whatever it might have been, a production system, we have not been able to meet our goals. I'm saying that in cloud services or software as a service, it's much better to get 80% of your needs fulfilled tomorrow instead of waiting 2 to 3 to 5 years for a system to be built. It's going to cost you 10 times as much, and it might not even fulfill your needs. It's all about agility, and it's all about predictability. I'm sure that every single CEO and CFO would be loving you if you as a CTO came to him and said, I know exactly within plus or minus 3% what our IT cost will be per employee or per factory over the next 3 years. That has still not happened. And it's all about how ITs can support the business processes. It's not about what and how IT is working. It's much more about why IT and not how IT. And it's all about agility. How can you change things? How can you actually develop a mobile app for your employees within 5 minutes because somebody has identified a need and we need to get that need fulfilled tomorrow? So it's all about innovation supported by IT. It's all about agility. It's all about speed. It's all about adoption. It's all about customization. It's all about capacity and abundance. And it's apps at the palm of your hand. And it's not always about money or technology. And this is where a lot of misunderstanding is, that people think that cloud computing is all about saving money. It's not. It's much more about being much more agile, and it's much more about I can actually get something done and deliver new IT tools to my organization within minutes and not within months. And customers' consideration of the cloud is that if we look at it, security, can I safely put my corporate data outside my firewall? How do I ensure an efficient and low risk migration? Will I be able to move my data and applications if I decide to move? Can I use my current licenses, or what licensing will work in the cloud? So these are some of the issues that you as a customer or you as a partner have to address. So what's just around the corner? Well, hardware is going to be part of the service offering, as I said. The big hardware vendors like HP and Dell, they're moving into the service and system integration game. They're a little bit afraid that they're going to disappear in the picture as well. There's going to be a lot of managed services securing the on-prem IT, also to enable the system integration. There's going to be a lot of subscription services on the on-prem deliveries. Non-IT players will move into the channel. Since technology is not going to be that important, people like me, and I used to say I don't know anything about technology, will actually be able to talk to customers much better than the technocrats that are out there. And cloud standards and regulations will come into play. And the trends, well, it's not all the cloud. We're going to see hybrid models, mobile apps, and now I'm working presently in Africa. Africa is key to mobile apps. In Africa, they don't have legacy systems. They don't have the fixed networks that we have. It's all about mobile apps in Africa. And if you're thinking of developing mobile apps, look to Africa and what they're doing right now. Big data, USA will drive it. Because in the US, it's one big market. They have no regulations. So big data and how to use big data and get the best out of it, that will be USA driving it. And if we look at community clouds, which is a new expression, that's going to happen in the public sector. We're going to see municipals going together, building their own community clouds to get the best out of it. Because, of course, in the public sector, we have a lot of issues around data security. So we're going to see a lot of community clouds being built in the public sector. And lastly, if you're sitting in Europe, the big question is that when is EU going to step in and regulate or deregulate what's happening? None of us knows it. There's a digital agenda called Digital Agenda 2020, where they're promoting cloud services and cloud computing a lot. But we still have a problem. Where can I, as a Danish company, have my data? Right now, as a Danish company, you can have your ERP data within the Nordic countries, but I have to actually get a special permit from the Danish authorities if I want to put my ERP data in Ireland. So a lot of things have to be done and looked at within EU. And by that, I would like to say thank you and take any questions. And I hope I didn't miss out on too much of the sound before. Thank you.
Hey Anders, thank you very much for that. Do you need a coffee after that?
No, okay, I've got water. But did I speak too slow or too fast, or was it okay?
No, the feedback was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We've had a lot of questions come in, some very technical, some high level. I'm going to pick out one question to start with. We've got approximately 8 minutes to go, so I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I may, Anders. The first question is from Navaraj. The question is, how is data integrity, security, and confidentiality maintained if we have to move to SaaS, HaaS?
Well, that depends on, of course, the data centers that you're working with. And my knowledge from, for instance, when Microsoft is trying to push into the public sector in Europe from the data centers in Ireland, and what they've done is that they let the governments actually go in and revise everything that they're doing. So right now, you have to trust yourself as an enterprise, whether you believe that what you're doing on your own premises is better than what you can get from the outside of your firewalls. Usually I challenge the audience when I do this live. I say, are you really sure that what you're doing is more secure than what you can actually buy from the outside? And then everybody becomes quiet. But the industry, the cloud industry, do have a challenge that they have to come up with some kind of certifications. And I know this organization, Eurocloud, is doing that out from inside of Germany and out in the rest of the Europe, where we can get some kind of certifications on who can we trust and who can we not trust in this space, because we still have a lot of smaller vendors within the SaaS and PaaS space that are not able to provide the right proof of their services. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Anders. That's, as always, very detailed from yourself. I'll finish on this question, if I may. Due to the broad spectrum of attendees, we've got on the call, we've got on the webinar rather, we've got both business people and also technical users of SAP. In the next sort of 12 months, 24 months, what do you see as some of perhaps the biggest challenges in cloud, in SAP and using cloud, and perhaps what can we do to preempt those challenges and perhaps overcome them?
Some of the challenges that I see is that SAP is, of course, as I would say, a legacy vendor in this space. It's a traditional IT vendor moving into the SaaS cloud space. And some of the challenges that we have to look at, either as a SAP supplier or a SAP buyer, is that can I take some of the advantages of software as a service, getting my stuff on a subscription base, and then not, if I cannot get or satisfied with the plug and play SAP solutions that are out there in the cloud, can I take some of the advantages from infrastructure as a service and move to a hoster that is very good at hosting SAP and know all the challenges, and see whether that fits to my needs? And one thing that I would say to everybody using SAP or thinking of using SAP is that cloud is not necessarily the way to go, but you have to find partners that understands how to work with a hybrid model. It's going to be all about the hybrid model, and not it's either on-prem or in the cloud. It's all about the hybrid model. Where can I get the best agility and thereby being much more innovative in how I use my IT?
Fabulous, Anders. Thank you very much. Well, you've put a lot of effort into that, and thank you again for taking the time for once again an excellent presentation. I know when we spoke last week, I was especially well, I really appreciated the presentation, as you know, and by the feedback we've got, I think everyone else does online as well. So what I'll do is let you finish there, Anders. Thank you once again for an excellent presentation.
Good.
For all the attendees who've asked. Sorry, Anders.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to say that everybody is going to be able to get a PDF copy of my presentation, as I said in the beginning. And if anybody wants to reach out, am I still in control here?
You actually are.
Here's all my details. So that will be at the end of the presentation if you send it out.
Anders, I think you're psychic because you've just answered the question that I was going to answer. But a lot of people ask.
Sorry about that.
No, it's great minds and all that, hey? So the contact details are on your screen now. As Andy said, we'll be sending out the PDF and also replays of the presentation with a schedule very shortly. So once again, thank you very much, Anders. We're going to take a brief... Thank you, Anders.